The vast majority of men mistakenly believe that foreplay is limited to those rushed 5 minutes before the main act. But as a urologist, I categorically state this is a biological error that is silently destroying your sex life. You try, you strive, but you feel she is never truly ready, which generates a devastating feeling of rejection and the constant sensation that you are failing as a man. If you feel the flame has cooled or that there is a chasm between you, understand that you are not broken and it is not your fault. The problem is that no one taught you the distinct neurochemical wiring of the female body. What seems like disinterest is merely a biological mismatch, where your instant arousal collides with her physiology, which requires a specific warm-up protocol that you are unaware of. I witness this frustration in my practice every day. Good men who have been sabotaged by the pornography script, the false belief that sex should always be quick, aggressive, and focused exclusively on the mechanics of penetration. We need to destroy the myth of the magic button now, because there is no cheap 30-second trick that can overcome human biology. Today, I will be your biological translator, and I will give you the exact map of female anatomy, revealing the 5 physiological pillars of arousal that work for any woman. We will replace guesswork with pure science, teaching you how to activate hormonal triggers in the correct order so that you stop feeling anxious about your performance and gain total control, transforming intimacy into something profound and explosive. Before we move on to the operating room of anatomy, I need you to pause and be brutally honest with me and yourself, as this is a safe environment for medical learning. Deep down, do you see foreplay as an essential and exciting part of the show? Or do you feel it's just a boring obstacle that needs to be overcome to get to the main event? Pause the video now and comment below. Part of the show, or obstacle, because your honest answer reveals exactly how you've been programmed. Take this moment to subscribe to the channel, guaranteeing your access to medical truths about men's health that most men ignore out of shame. My commitment is to arm you with science so you can master your vitality and your relationships. The first critical pillar of female arousal doesn't begin between the legs, but rather between the ears. It's mental security, which biologically requires the complete deactivation of the amygdala. The amygdala is the primitive region of the brain responsible for fear and alertness. Think of it as a neurological handbrake pulled with full force that, while activated by stress or pressure, chemically blocks any possibility of pleasure or lubrication. If you physically advance while her cortisol is high, she won't feel arousal, she'll feel a territorial invasion, causing her to emotionally shut down as an instinctive defense mechanism. In your daily life, this means that before initiating any bold physical touch, you must create an environment of absolute safety, talking to disarm her stress, ensuring that the handbrake is released so the car can move forward. With the handbrake off, many men make the fatal mistake of going straight for the genitals, completely ignoring the second pillar, non-sexual touch and the production of oxytocin. The skin is, in fact, the largest sexual organ in the human body, covered in millions of Y.I. receptors that, when stimulated slowly, release oxytocin, the powerful bonding hormone that signals to the brain that the woman is desired as a person, and not just used as an object. Skipping this step is like trying to start a cold engine by forcing it to maximum speed instantly. You might even manage to move the car, but you will cause internal damage and unnecessary friction that destroys the experience. Practically, this requires you to invest in touches, hugs, and caresses that do not have the explicit intention of immediate penetration, because paradoxically, it is by taking the pressure off sex that you open the chemical floodgates to overwhelming desire. Now that the skin is properly aroused, we move on to the third critical pillar, which is the biological phenomenon of pelvic vasocongestion, or what I technically call warming up the engine. Biologically, female erectile tissue requires a massive volume of blood to be redirected from the extremities to the pelvis, a slow, hydraulic process that takes about 20 minutes to complete, very different from the almost instantaneous male response. Think of it like trying to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool using only a garden hose. If you force your way in before the pool is full, the tissue hasn't formed its protective blood cushion, turning what should be pleasure into sharp pain. Emotionally, this waiting creates a delightful anticipation, but in practice, it requires you to maintain constant and patient stimulation, allowing her anatomy to physically change to receive you. Only with fully established blood flow does the fourth pillar emerge, the definitive green light called vaginal transudation, which is chemically distinct from superficial lubrication. Transudation occurs when blood pressure in the vaginal walls is so high that the plasma literally sweats through the cells, creating an ultra-slippery natural lubricant that prepares the canal for friction without causing micro-tears. Think of it like the high-performance oil in an engine. Without it, the parts will scream, overheat, and seize up, instantly killing any emotional connection you've built up to this point. If you ignore this clear visual signal, you're telling her body that her comfort is irrelevant. So the rule of thumb is strict observation. Don't proceed to penetration until her body gives you this wet passport of physiological approval. The fifth and final pillar, which separates purely mechanical sex from a transcendental experience, is rhythmic connection based on autonomic synchronization. Neurological studies show that, at the peak of real arousal, the partner's heartbeats and breathing tend to align perfectly, creating a positive feedback loop where your calmness guides her intensity. The common enemy of pornography teaches a frenetic and disjointed rhythm, like an industrial jackhammer, but female biology responds to wave and modulation. It's the brutal difference between being hit by a hammer and being lulled by the sea. Practically, stop pumping mechanically and start feeling her breath. When you breathe together, orgasm ceases to be a solitary and selfish goal and becomes an inevitable and deeply shared consequence between the couple. To summarize all this complex science into a single actionable tool you can use tonight, I present to you the 20-minute rule. Forget the rush and the anxiety. You need to commit to dedicating at least 20 uninterrupted minutes focused exclusively on the sequential activation of these pillars, without trying to skip steps or take shortcuts to the finish line. Approach sex not as a 100-meter sprint where speed wins, but as a journey of exploration where every minute spent in preparation exponentially multiplies the intensity of the final destination. By applying this rule, you allow her body chemistry to work in your favor, not against you, ensuring that when penetration finally happens, it will not only be tolerated, but desperately desired. It's a simple mindset shift. Invest time in warming up the engine, and the performance will be flawless. I want you to leave this video with a huge weight lifted off your shoulders. Knowing these biological differences and needing to adapt your approach doesn't make you less of a man. On the contrary, it makes you an elite expert on your partner's body. The insecurity you felt before came only from a lack of correct information, from trying to operate a complex system, using the wrong manual that society and pornography sold you. Now you have the treasure map in your hands. You understand that her coldness wasn't personal rejection, but just an activated amygdala or incomplete vasocongestion that you now know exactly how to resolve with patience and technique. You're no longer groping in the dark hoping to get lucky. You have science and biology as your allies, allowing you to take the lead in intimacy with renewed and unwavering confidence. Always remember this fundamental truth. When you genuinely focus on the journey of foreplay and emotional connection, the destiny of orgasm takes care of itself, happening naturally as a consequence of the security you've provided. You have the real power to rekindle that flame today, not with magic tricks, but with presence, empathy, and a deep biological understanding. If you want to continue mastering your physiology and understand more about how your own testosterone influences your vitality and leadership, be sure to watch the video that's currently playing on the screen, as it's the next logical step in your evolution. And please don't forget to leave a like if you learned something new about anatomy today. This helps our real health message reach more men who need to hear it. Until next time.